Good morning.
Good morning.
I realize I will make sure I speak somewhat slowly so the translation can go through appropriately. I've got a few things to say here. It won't be too long. But I first wanted to say that I'm very excited that this opportunity has finally come to fruition. We've been working on it for the past couple of years, and it's an exciting time that we're able to put this together. So as Yahel said, I'm with the U.S. Forest Service international programs, and I work within the Middle East, but also within Africa. I've been with the Forest Service about 7 years now. The focus of ecosystem services has continued to grow over the last 5 years or so, at least in my tenure with the Forest Service. And I wanted to kind of sort of share my first experience working with the Forest Service and dealing with ecosystem services. I had just started working in East Africa, and I was with a colleague of mine, Steve McNulty. Some of you guys may know his name, who is known as a super scientist. And believe it or not, this is an actual term in the U.S. Forest Service. There's a select number of scientists that are called super scientists. It's a real term. You think it's kind of silly, but it's what you strive for as a scientist. So Steve and I are in Uganda for a couple weeks, working with the Ugandan Wildlife Authority. And while we were there, the director says, we've heard about this ecosystem services. We don't know much about it. We'd like to learn more about it. Can you take some time off and go to the western part of the country, to this area called the Rwenzori Mountains. I don't know if you've heard of them. It's a beautiful, beautiful landscape. It's right on the border of the DRC and Rwanda. And they've been trying to sort of implement some new activities there. So Steve and I travel about a day or so westward, and we enter the Rwenzori Mountains. And it's very thick vegetation. Not many people have been there. It's a beautiful place. And myself and Steve, and then we've got this whole entourage of people with us. And we're hiking through. No one had been there for about a month or so. And this type of landscape, they don't really know what switchbacks are. It just goes straight up. So we're hiking through. We get to the first campsite. We spend the night there. Beautiful mountain peaks. You hear chimpanzees in the distance. Next morning we get up, keep hiking, and we get to the second campsite. We're exhausted. And we're sitting there. It's probably late at night. So we're sitting around the campfire sharing stories. And this gentleman who is leading us sort of leans over and he says, "So have we found the ecosystem service?" And I just started cracking up. It's like we were searching for the Holy Grail or diamonds or gold or something. And we all got a good laugh out of it. And I think that's just a good point of what ecosystem services is. A lot of people think that it's a very quick thing that you can do, and it happens overnight. A lot of people attach a dollar sign to ecosystem services, and it's not going to happen overnight. And this particular park has an array of ecosystem services, so many options, but it doesn't happen quickly. And I think that is something that we will talk about over today, is that it is a sexy subject. It's definitely a highlighted area. And the Forest Service has a long tradition of working in ecosystem services. And we are more and more gravitating towards the international spectrum when it comes to ecosystem services. We are working in more and more countries. And we're diversifying the way ecosystems work and how they're managed. But it does take a long time for them to work. And it takes a lot of patience. And we will talk about that. But I did want to mention one thing, in that So as I said, the Forest Service has been working with cacao and in Israel for a long time now. I would say that it is probably the longest standing relationship within the Forest Service in terms of continuous commitment. I've been managing this program not very long, for about a year now, but I have been on the outside watching it grow. We have been working with cacao since 19. We have a very long tradition dealing with different types of technical assistance.
87,
Did I say 94?
87.
Thank you. I think this is the type of relationship that we have. They can yell at me as I'm trying to give a speech and correct me. So thank you, Gail. 87. I was looking for him earlier just to make sure I had it right. And it's been an exchange of professionals back and forth to the U.S. And we've worked in fire management, and now we're getting to that phase of potentially working in long-term ecosystem services, and this is where it starts right now. And I am very excited about it. We've been looking on it for long now, maybe a couple of years now. And I don't know what it's going to bring from this point forward, but I am optimistic that it is going to generate some long-term engagement. And so that's the reason that we are here this week, is to focus in on that and learn more about it. So at that point, I'm very much looking forward to this week and continuing this engagement. So I want to say thank you on that. And at this point, I would like to introduce my colleagues that are with me. First, I want to introduce Nicola Smith. Nicola is, I'm just going to go ahead and read a few things here. Nicola is an ecologist and ecosystem service specialist with the U.S. Forest Service, based in Portland, Oregon, in the western part of the U.S. She works within the U.S. forest system to apply ecosystem services concepts to forest management by making connections between ecological conditions and public benefits. I've worked with Nicola for quite some time now, and I've been enjoying getting to know her professionalism and her ability to get things done. So Nicola, along with her work domestically, she does work with us internationally, particularly in Africa, South Asia, and Central Asia. And Nicola has a bachelor's degree in biology from Brown University and a master's degree in economic and political development from Columbia University in New York. And moving on to Todd Gardner. He's the ringleader when it comes to the ecosystem services of this project. He's been very patient as we've tried to put this together. I know he's very excited to be here this week. So Todd is a senior associate for the Real World Resources Institute, and he works in the Food, Forest, and Water program. Todd is recognized as an international expert on ecosystem services, conservation incentives, and payment for environmental services. Currently, Todd runs WRI's Natural Infrastructure for Water project, working with governments and businesses to invest in conserving and restoring forests, wetlands, and other ecosystems. Todd has worked all over the world in many different capacities. Todd has a Master's of Forestry degree from Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies and a Bachelor in Finance from the University of Maryland Smith School of Business. He's also a Swiss Environmental Leadership Program Fellow and Property and Environmental Research Fellow. So he's well accomplished, and we should also be pleased to hear his remarks. And last but not least, his colleague Jasmine Chin, just here. Jasmine is a research analyst for the Natural Infrastructure for Water project with WRI. She works to develop new mapping tools for global watershed for users to view watershed data, project water risk and trends, and identify priorities for sustainable solutions. Like Todd, she also has her master's degree from the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, and she has her Bachelor of Arts from Colby. So at that time, I would like to move it on to our next, who is, you're going to have to help me out, who's up next, Gil. You're up next, Gil. So thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.